Sitting here today, after all you've come to learn as a witness, do you believe Purdue's conduct in marketing and promoting OxyContin in Kentucky caused any of the prescription drug addiction problems now plaguing the Commonwealth?
I don't believe so.
Sitting here today, after all you've come to learn as a witness, do you believe that Purdue's conduct in Kentucky has led to an excessive or unnecessary amount of opioids being located throughout the Commonwealth of Kentucky?
I don't believe so.
Pharmaceutical companies began sending sales reps across the US and Canada, aggressively marketing much stronger opioid pain medication to doctors. The market leaders in this, though by no means the only ones at it, were Purdue Pharma. Between 1997 and 2002, prescriptions for OxyContin increased from 670,000 to 6.2 million.
I could literally set my clock. Every 4 hours, I would take 2, and if I waited longer, I could literally within 15 minutes or whatever of the 4-hour mark, I would feel the pain starting to come back.
What did the company describe as pseudo-addiction?
Well, theoretically, pseudo-addiction was supposed to be if a patient displayed drug-seeking behavior that was similar to what you might see in an addict. In other words, they would go to the doctor and say, the dose that you gave me isn't strong enough. It's not managing my pain. Or they may go to several different doctors to try to get, more medication.
I don't want to get credit for what he's doing. Did patients that I sold OxyContin to through a doctor get hurt? Oh, I hope not, but I'm sure they did. Am I ashamed that I worked for them? Not at all. Because I know that what I did was the right thing.
Do you believe that any of Purdue's conduct has led to an increase in people being addicted in the Commonwealth of Kentucky?
No.
Cash rules everything around me. In January of 1994, American hip-hop group Wu-Tang Clan came out with a song named Cream. An acronym stood for Cash Rules Everything Around Me. It shared a pretty compelling story of growing up in the slums and roughing it out until you make it. This one song, and its meaning of course, had a massive impact on the generation and those that followed it. But just imagine that same acronym is used not in an encouraging way, but to generate massive wealth, but in a greedy and unforgiving way at the expense of a person's health or sanity. 450,000. That's only a number that you want to hear if you by chance win the jackpot. But no, 450,000. That is the number of people that an opioid epidemic killed from the blockbuster drug OxyContin and marketed by the company Purdue Pharma. The opioid crisis that sparked in the 1990s by the promotion of OxyContin by Purdue Pharma triggered the first deaths linked to legal opioid prescriptions that destroyed an entire generation and those after it. From this moment, overdose deaths, including prescription opioids, would integrate its way into our communities and destroy an entire generation, cascading an effect of opioid-related overdoses for every other generation to come. Hello lovelies, welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are doing well and your hearts are filled with joy because you deserve it. Wow. Okay, so honestly, school is honestly like keeping me so much from like pumping out these videos back to back, and I really would love to, but it's just so much and I only get to do these things during the break. Thank you for bearing with me and honestly just tuning in. It was such a great turnout in the last video and I'm so glad that I'm able to like do these videos and talk about these topics and relate them to the things that I engage with, whether it's like media or books or whatever. So yeah, thank you so much guys for like tuning in. This video in particular Oh my gosh, that sounds like a sponsor video already. Let me reel it back. This video in particular is inspired by Painkiller on Netflix and Dopesick on Hulu. Both of them are essentially adaptations of the opioid crisis that occurred in the 90s. And funny enough, I actually didn't know anything about this, and I was like, that's pretty interesting. I gotta look at this. I gotta deep dive into this. It honestly didn't surprise me coming from, you know, learning about the benzodiazepine issue. This was insane. This is just like a whole new level of like, y'all are really tripping for real. Okay. It's insane, honestly. From like the corruption to the things that were overlooked and the amount of people that died. Yikes. This opioid crisis is probably the most unique because it literally cascaded the rest of the opioid and narcotic related deaths that we got in the following years. We could thank the Sackler family for this. We could honestly give them a big round of applause for being the originals, the ones that started it all. Before I begin, I just wanted to give a brief thank you for all of the individuals that left those very touching comments in my previous video on benzodiazepines and the gaslighting and medicine video. It was literally so heartbreaking, and I got so emotional reading all of the comments and all these stories. I am relatively still young. I'm still learning. I'm still in school. Health is essentially like a spectrum. Nothing's ever straightforward, and the things we learn essentially are straightforward stuff. It's the things that you encounter day to day, but learning how someone could be taken advantage of in the medical field, it really touched me, and it really made me think about how I want to be in the pharmacy field. I'm just really thankful that you guys were able to feel comfortable on this channel sharing those comments. I always want this to be an open space for everybody, and I want everybody to feel that they can share and to honestly just keep teaching me, because I just love learning and I have a long way to go, you know, if I'm blessed to live a long fruitful life. Thank you again very much, everybody that shared. I heard all of you guys. You guys are seen, and if you guys want to keep sharing comments, I will be sure to reply to them. I also wanted to point out the inspiration for this video was by a friend. She actually recommended to me to watch Painkiller on Netflix. Yeah, shout out to you, queen. I know you're watching this video, and I thank you for giving me the heads up on this issue so that I can do my little deep dive and cover it. So OxyContin. Just to give you like a brief overview of what the series are about if you plan on watching it, which I think you should, and if you do watch it, Dopesick, everything felt so real and raw, whereas Painkiller, it did a pretty good job as well, but I feel like Painkiller had its Netflix moments. Dopesick really honed in on like real life issues and how it would occur and how a person would get hooked on a drug and how it would cascade into like this snowball effect of being dependent, and Hulu did an amazing job with that adaptation, and they detailed the rise and most satisfying fall of the corrupt company known as Purdue Pharma. Yes, we're dropping names in this video. Don't come for me, but I literally, when I was watching this and I was researching Purdue Pharma, I'm like, the chicken nugget company? Why would Purdue, the company that be making chicken nuggets, be out here selling OxyContin? And then I had to like research and be like, oh, it's a pharmaceutical company. I haven't heard of it. Like in all the studies that I've done so far, usually you can look up like manufacturer names and you will see things like Teva or like Activist, to name a few of like pharmaceutical companies that you come across. But I have not seen Purdue Pharma, and I think we know the reason why now. It makes sense why their company is not on any pharmaceutical products, at least ones that I'm not aware of. The ones that I be researching, I do not see a Purdue Pharma, and that probably explains the reason why I thought it was a chicken nugget company. You get me? Okay, so I just want to make sure we're on the same page. Yeah, we don't associate Purdue Pharma with Purdue. Okay, let's just make sure we're on the same page for that. Imagine being able to market a drug, not just any drug, a narcotic. What the hell? For mild to moderate pain. Now, usually when you hear the term narcotic, you initially think, I'm in severe pain, I need something to deal with this right now. You would reach for Tylenol, you would reach for ibuprofen, anything with like acetaminophen in it, just to give you that temporary pain reliever until you can find something else to alleviate that pain. Narcotics, those things are usually reached for as like a last resort. OxyContin was that one thing Purdue Pharma wanted to to push onto the public as something that could replace ibuprofen and Tylenol. I hope you're getting what I'm meaning here. They wanted to use a severely dangerous drug that is supposed to be used for severe pain to be used for mild to moderate pain. And we're clear how psychotic that sounds. This opioid was served on a silver platter to the masses as less addictive, which in fact it was the most dangerous drug marketing strategy that I've ever encountered in my life. The idea of OxyContin didn't just appear out of the blue. In fact, the active ingredient known as oxycodone was actually used concomitantly, I hope I used that right, we're trying to throw some big vocabulary here, okay, with morphine sulfate in a drug formulation called MS-Contin. In 1966, Knapp Laboratories initially developed a controlled release oral morphine formulation with a 12-hour duration targeted for cancer patients, end-of-life care, and crisis situations. A patient taking this drug could expect to receive uninterrupted sleep and improve their quality of life. Traditional use of morphine most commonly involves pain management, and oxycodone is used to treat severe pain or injury when other painkillers such as paracetamol, ibuprofen, and aspirin are not working efficiently. OxyContin had a delayed release label. It was a class 2 controlled substance that was supposed to be taken twice a day every 12 hours. Purdue Pharma risked it all to either make billions or lose billions. The 1%er tycoon known as Richard Sackler was the kingpin behind this whole operation. He was an American billionaire businessman and physician that had a vision to manipulate the way that the general public took pain meds. As the chairman and president of Purdue Pharma, Sackler took the opportunity to formulate a drug so powerful known as OxyContin to combat Percocet and morphine. The ingredients didn't change from the previous MS-Contin, only that one was made more potent than the other. That main ingredient being oxycodone was the more potent ingredient in OxyContin. Well, why would it be an issue for Sackler's new miracle drug if it was the same formulation in MS-Contin? How was it that OxyContin was the one that would destroy an entire generation? Well, here's why. In a study of controlled release oral morphine in an advanced cancer hospital that was published in the Journal of Pain and Symptom Management, observed the MS-Contin formulation that was designed to provide a prolonged plasma morphine concentration with no observable accumulation properties following repeated dosing, thereby promoting uninterrupted sleep and hopefully improving patients' quality of life. In September of 1985 to June 1986, 25 adult patients, age ranges 31 to 84, were entered into the study to monitor the amount of as-needed medication required as their escape analgesic. People with histories of drug abuse and rapidly progressive disease were reported to be unresponsive to parenteral morphine. To combat this, the average amount of escape medication per patient per day increased with time patients were on study. No accumulation properties were observed, and side effects were reflective of other narcotics that are often used. It was also noted that in this patient population, a pain-free state was not considered realistic, and adequate analgesia was defined as patient satisfaction with the amount of relief obtained. Additionally, although most patients were in the advanced stages of the disease and were receiving a number of other medication, sedation was acceptable, mild, and transient. So essentially, in this study alone, MS-Contin wasn't observed to be a complete remover of pain, which brings us back to OxyContin, which was formulated to be a complete remover of pain. So you see where I'm going with this, right? MS-Contin couldn't remove pain entirely, so for OxyContin, why not we just up the dose of one of the ingredients that was originally in MS-Contin and then say OxyContin has this higher dose, so it must be able to remove pain. Wait. What was that? What was that, Sackler? It was the most reasonable thing to do? Hold on. What was that? What was that, Sackler? It surely won't create fiends in the process? It won't kill 450,000 people? Sackler was a physician, right? Surely any brain-dead armadillo could do one Google search, just one, type it in, and it will literally tell you that that is not possible.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
I'm only a fourth-year pharmacy student, so what do I know? Anytime that you have a controlled substance and a patient is not responding to it, you're supposed to change the entire medication, or you just have to remove the medication or decrease the dose, but never, ever, especially for narcotics. There are a couple other drugs, but just another class to name a few would be antibiotics. Antibiotics are essentially a medication that is supposed to fight infections and bacteria. But if you were to increase the dose of an antibiotic constantly for a patient that is not receiving the expected outcome, you can actually end up affecting their normal microbiota. Microbiota is essentially the good bacteria that lives inside of us. A simple Google search would tell you that. Due to OxyContin being marketed as a narcotic targeting mild pain and Sackler himself stating that it would remove pain, prescribers started writing prescriptions for OxyContin based on complaints for headaches, aches, and injuries without doing the much needed research. And this brings us to the issue where thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people were taking this medication and ended up dope sick. Roll credits. It's not as if federal companies were ignorant to exactly what OxyContin was capable of. They actually ran testing on it, and there were many flaws that came up during their trials. In 2003, during the initial stages of the drug being rolled out, the DEA stated that Purdue Pharma's aggressive marketing methods had not only exacerbated the widespread use of OxyContin, but also minimized its risks. As a result, Purdue Pharma continued to blame those abusing the drug and taking it incorrectly. And it doesn't stop there. In that same year, the FDA also sent Purdue Pharma a warning letter about their ads not acknowledging the fatal risks when using OxyContin. The so-called 12-hour relief that was promised was a big lie, and it was even proved. In OxyContin's beginning, it was tested on a group of women in Puerto Rico that required pain relief, and almost half reported their pain returning before the 12-hour mark. It was evident that their product, OxyContin, was getting pushed back, and they had to respond to this in a feasible way to not get shut down completely. The company essentially started hiring sales representatives. Okay, let me talk about the seminars for a second, okay? In Painkiller, it was definitely exaggerated how stupid these seminars were, but then after watching Dope Sick, I kind of don't think that they were kidding when they did their over-exaggerated galas and their over-exaggerated parties. Those parties were a trip. And like these pain specialists detailing what pain really is and how OxyContin is the remedy for that. Now, I'm not gonna hold you. These sales reps definitely got the product in. The way they did it may make you question how those doctors got those degrees in the first place. They got the job done. I'll give them that. After that, their next step would be having to get the FDA to approve OxyContin as a drug that can be pushed to the marketplace and not just ushered into private medical clinics and private companies so that they can bring in more profit. Because let's be real, if you're just ushering your product into private companies, you're not seeing a return for that. So they needed to make up for their means for formulating the drug, all this promo. They needed to get the profit back. So they needed to go through the FDA. If you don't know what the FDA is, the FDA basically is the Food and Drug Administration. They are the administrative company that approves a drug product once it has gone through all of its clinical trials. Once it has gone through all of its clinical trials and has made it to a reviewer, that said reviewer that specializes in that area where that drug is marketed for will then again review it and either approve it or deny it to then be pushed to the marketplace, which is where we meet Mr. Curtis Wright. Oh my goodness, honey. Curtis Wright had Purdue Pharma in a choke hold. He had his foot on their neck. I think he denied them like over 100 times. Step denied, step denied, step denied. I was like, let's go. You ain't getting nowhere. You can't handle the truth. Curtis Wright was a lead researcher with the FDA who studied the addictive and non-addictive properties of opioids and approved them for sale. Of course, after giving Purdue Pharma the pushback that they so desperately needed, eventually, after some goading and a very suspicious hotel stay, Purdue Pharma was able to secure their sign of approval from Curtis and start pumping out OxyContin to the masses. Not to mention that right after the approval, Curtis went to work for Purdue Pharma and left his job at the FDA. Yikes. Because it's not like Curtis Wright was the only person working at the FDA. Other representatives of the FDA could look into that. Surely there are records of how many times they were disapproved, and then one fateful day, Curtis Wright is gone from the office, OxyContin gets approved, and he quits and works for the company, trying to get your stamp of approval for how many months. They got away with it. And he went to work for them and everything was jolly and good. But now we get brought to the fallout. No surprise that a family as big as the Sackler family would want to watch what they say, be as intentional with their product as possible. They were watching their every move. They were calculating every response that they were gonna make. If they could have went longer and no one dibble-dabbled in anything that they were doing, they would have been sitting pretty to this day. The effort to make sure that their product was without fault was just almost flawless. From advertisements to educational seminars and even drug promotional videos, it was a plan that required as little loopholes as possible. The most basic and low-tier seminars were hosted by pain specialists with little to no medical or scientific information that use words such as is believed and less than 1%.
The rate of addiction amongst pain patients who are treated by doctors is much less than 1%.
And what really interested me is the fact that doctors heard these statements, is believed and less than 1%. You spent 8 to 10 years in school and you listen to rhetoric such as is believed and less than 1%. That's not a head scratcher for you. Another interesting aspect about this whole thing is Dope Sick in particular. The drug promotional videos never said OxyContin by name. They said pain management medication. To be more specific, they called it a painkiller. I'm not into law, so I don't know like the full logistics behind this. From my understanding, if you have a product that you are marketing, not just a drug product, let's think in general terms. Things have a name for a reason. Even the Apple iPhone. If the Apple iPhone were to catch on fire, the Apple company can't just be like, it was the calling device, because there are also things such as Samsung. Say there is an incident, they need to be able to identify that the said calling device was an Apple iPhone, not a Samsung phone. It's the same with OxyContin, so they didn't attach the name to it, but there are other painkillers out there, but they're not as harsh as how OxyContin was. So not only were they being reckless with their promotional videos, which I found very interesting how they were able to get away with when they were also endangering other people's companies, because they need to be able to be like, that is OxyContin, that is not ibuprofen, that's not acetaminophen, that's not anything else, if you get what I mean. That was like the number one thing that I felt that the feds, whoever was after them, could have took into account, and they did, but the case got thrown out. And this story where Richard Sackler and his family were able to get away with something as severe as this, like people's health, made me think, was it just his money? But don't forget, he was a physician. Richard Sackler and his father, Arthur Sackler, were physicians. They were practicing physicians for years before Arthur Sackler passed away, and Richard Sackler had the idea to make a drug known as OxyContin. Were they able to get away with this type of behavior because he also had a physician name attached to him? You get respect when you have the name doctor attached to you. Having that attached with the money, attached with the power, gave him also the opportunity to get away with marketing OxyContin as just a painkiller, persuading Curtis Wright, which that probably had more so to do with the money and the power. There's no way an average just politician or average person that says, I want to come out with this new medication would get away with as much as Richard Sackler did. And it almost was done flawlessly. The Sackler family's travesty, known as the Empire of Pain, which honestly, shout out to all those articles, shout out to everyone that named them the Empire of Pain. Now that we can dissociate them from Purdue chicken nuggets, okay, we don't need that Purdue pharma being misconstrued with the beautiful Purdue chicken nuggets, okay? They created essentially a cesspool of disaster for the oncoming years. According to Missouri Medicine, contrary to the statements of Purdue, recent evidence has shown that OxyContin is addictive and has played a significant role in the devastating epidemic of opioid addiction that has gripped the US in recent years. Increasing crime rates shot up, break-ins into pharmacies. The drug was so addictive that it could honestly be related to heroin. In the years of 1997 and 1998, we saw the height of crime rates increase relating to OxyContin. Because of the tactic used to bring OxyContin into the market without the FDA's approval first, people started getting this drug out into the streets and using it as another way of getting high. People started crushing it and snorting it. Another pharmacy fact, certain drug substances you have to ingest as the route of administration is provided. Some of them is parenterally, which is through IV or injecting into the skin. Some of them is intramuscularly. Some of them is sublingual. Some of them is buccal, which is by the cheek. Most of these drug substances are coated so that they can pass the lipid layer of your body's cell. You just crushing it and snorting it can actually make it act faster than it's supposed to and cause you to overdose. In the following years, lawsuits did eventually hit Purdue's door. Sorry, let me make it clear. Purdue Pharma's door, and they had to hire Rudy Giuliani as their lawyer. Oof. When I saw that in the documentary, I was like, okay, yes, it's over for us. After that, they were able to keep pumping OxyContin out into the market despite the full case that they had built against them. Eventually, though, after many years, and I didn't know this until doing the research, they actually did file for bankruptcy in 2023. Although they did file for bankruptcy, I did want to make it clear that because they filed for bankruptcy doesn't mean that the drug is off the market. The drug actually is very much so still on the market. Believe that a lot of people use it. That's what conflicts me. There are people that defended OxyContin. What they said essentially made sense. I'm sitting from a privileged seat of being healthy and in strength. I am young, so I'm pretty good. People with diseases such as rheumatoid arthritis and osteoarthritis required OxyContin, and they sought relief from it and actually found relief from it. After hearing that, it did definitely soften my heart because I still am upset that that was marketed for mild to slightly moderate pain. Not one person of the Sackler family is in jail right now. As I said before, money and power gets you so far, but a person like Richard Sackler definitely had to have that extra level of being an actual physician to get as far as he did. The drug definitely still has its use despite its controversies, but I will acknowledge that the amount of innocent people that suffered because of the way that this drug was promised is inexcusable. The amount of people that lost their lives from it surpasses any amount of excuse that you can warrant for the reason of giving everybody this false hope of completely eradicating pain. Alright, so that is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you've watched the series as well, I hope you guys can tell me experiences or relate to them. Or if some of you guys actually lived through the epidemic and saw it firsthand. I've heard it's chaotic, but I didn't live through that. But that is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and leave me any other recommendations in the comment section below of things that you think I should watch, books you think I should read and cover. I'm really open to anything. Remember to smile more, appreciate life more, and I will see you guys next time.